Hi. This is going to be about elements and how they apply in our yogic investigations. So one interesting thing I read at not too long ago, um, James Frawley saying that when he was talking about chakras, he said, well, more accurately, we should probably be talking about the elements rather than the chakras. And that super resonated with me because chakras are along this, this core. And the implication with chakras is so often that this is better than this. So if you place elements, you see, or at least I see, I feel, oh, that's a very holistic way of looking at our embodiment. And in fact, resonates more for me with the koshas, which is just another picture of embodiment, that instead of finding the source of things as out and up and kind of beyond this structure, the koshas with its circular map tends to show to those of us who are dedicated to coming into our form fully, the embodiment of awareness, shows to us that, oh, well, okay, there's this superficial, and then you go deeper, and this is through the elements from the earth, the water, the fire, the air, the space, so on and so forth, into awareness. As you go deeper inside, you find source. But then again, in that picture of the spherical shape, we also, or at least I, have the sense, well, okay, if I go in, then I can also come back out. So from periphery to source, and from source again to periphery, we're able to traverse the inner world through the elements. Now, that would not be as interesting if we thought of elements only as the structures that we're looking at around us, right? The earth, the water. I mean, it's beautiful enough, that's for sure. But the map, the Sankhya map, the big map of creation coming from the most essential, empty radiance, sparking into creativity and then splattering out all over the place, differentiating into all of these forms and so forth. That map shows us that there are not just obvious elements, but we also have very, very subtle, not just the element, the subtle element, but all the way into the place where it's the seed of it. Now, further fascinating to me is that each one of these elements relates to one of our human senses. If you're feeling a lot of wind, it's because it's windy. You may be hearing it. Each of our senses has both its outer recognition and it's receiving inside, as I spoke about the other day about touch, and all the way into the most subtle aspect of its impulse to become. So, what are the senses? The senses are, and they go with the elements. The first is earth, and its sense is smell. It's the first sense to develop embryologically, the sense of smell. And of course, smell is the thing, the sense that will help us to find our initial nourishment as we're these little tiny, just arrived on the planet babies. It's like, where is, I gotta get alive here, I gotta stay alive. Earth. existence, smell. What is the inner seed of that penetrating desire to stay alive? A certain kind of very early saying yes to life. Is it experienceable? It's pretty superficial. It's pretty obvious. This is not all that subtle yet. And then we get into the next element, water, and water relates to taste. So you can look at it and that in that developmental way, in the outer sense, which is I can smell it and now I can taste it. Baby, sucking, getting, the first nourishment that we as humans took from our own volition. Taste. We take it in, we get it, got it, we're learning to process it, and then fire. Fire is the digestion of it, right? Now, just to make this a shorter rather than longer little video on this subject, I'm going to start into some of the more subtle aspects of fire. Okay? So the fire element gives us our digestion and our metabolism, and it also gives us our fiery and passionate nature. And fire relates to sight. What do we see? How are we going to relate to our environment based on what we see using our sight sense? Also, this subtle sight relates to the thinking. We could call thinking a sense. We think. We're processing about. This is an inner process of thinking. Our thoughts are form. Our thoughts are not something spectacular and overtly divine. Our thoughts are as much structure as our feelings and our fact of existence, so on and so forth. So, we're making sense of things. This is an aspect of the sight, and we could add, in embodiment, we could add thinking. Now, what else is subtle sight? So we obviously see around us, we see things. Might there be, in my experience, this is the case, might there not be an even more subtle sight? And sure, people see auras and energies and all of that thing, and that's definitely on that same continuum of a refined sense of sight. But might there be a sight that is wide open from the back brain, not from the front perceiving, but from the back brain, as if there's a window, a wide open window to the vastness, right here in the back of your head where you could, it's space, it feels like space. You could slice your hand right through it, there's nothing even there. And yet one perceives, direct perception of radiance with subtle sight. At the level of the subtle sight, the thinking processes are just calmed. And as they're calmed, as the vrittis settle, they're not going to go away. Forget about it. They don't need to go away. They're just part and parcel of this thing. They're doing their thing, but they're settled because there's some resolution about them. The resolution is the non-argument with the fact. Oh yeah, thinking. Oh yes, and what is even more interesting, and that's enough. So we can do more later. Thank you for watching, and yeah, just thank you for being there. I'm loving. I'm sort of loving being all alone up here in the Adirondacks. What's not to love, huh? The invitation when other things quiet, the invitation to move into the subtle. The little obstacles that come and want to attract the mind, and then the bigger invitation to go under. Why? Not because I'm so um, disciplined. I'm not disciplined. I'm interested. I'm interested enough to say, and what's under that? Are you interested enough? And can we do it together in the endeavor to reach more deeply into our humanity as well as our vastness? Let's do this together. I want to be with you. You want to be with us. We don't want to be completely alone. And yet, and yet. So thanks again for joining. Till probably tomorrow. Thank you.